Blog Talk Radio.
Hello and welcome to Leadership Strategies for Women Radio. My name is Ellie Nieves and I'm a women's leadership speaker, writer, and coach. I'm also the founder and president of Leadership Strategies for Women. I work with and speak for companies, organizations, and associations that want to develop their emerging leaders into effective managers and executives. I also coach women who want to achieve more both personally and professionally. Through my speaking and coaching programs, I help individuals and organizations to develop leadership skills and set strategic goals that will help them to develop their vision for success. For more information, you can visit my website at leadershipstrategiesforwomen.com. I'm very excited about our guest today. Our guest is Janet Hanson, who is the CEO and founder of 85 Broads. Janet is widely respected as a leading entrepreneur and is recognized as a unique voice and champion for women globally. As CEO and founder of 85 Broads, Janet has built a global network community of 30,000 trailblazing women who want to leverage their best personal and professional relationships to create greater success for themselves and for each other. After graduating from Wheaton College and Columbia Business School, Janet joined Goldman Sachs in 1977. In 1986, she became the first woman in the firm's history to be promoted to sales management. Following her 14-year career at Goldman Sachs, Janet founded Milestone Capital Management, a $2 billion institutional money management company. From 2004 to 2007, Janet was a managing director and senior advisor to the president of Lehman Brothers. Janet is a member of the Kellogg Center for Executive Women's Steering Committee. She's a member of the Forbes Executive Women's Board. She's a former member of the Board of Trustees of Wheaton College and a current member of the board of the Christopher and Dana Reeve Foundation. She's an associate fellow of Pearson College at Yale University and serves on the advisory board of the Center for Work-Life Policy's Hidden Brain Drain Task Force. She's received a number of awards and honors, including an honorary degree from Middlebury College in 2007. Janet, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Ellie. Glad to be here.
Well, I'm excited to have you on. I just feel like you're just full of knowledge and experience, and you've certainly motivated me and inspired me through your work, and I'm looking forward to having you do the same with our listeners.
That's wonderful.
So I've already shared some information about you, but can you also provide us with a little bit more about your background?
Yes, just very briefly. I grew up in Hastings-on-Hudson, New York, which is a suburb of New York City, and I am one of three children, the middle child. So I have the middle child syndrome. My brother's a year older. My sister's a year younger, so I had to figure out how I was going to differentiate myself and really stand out. I chose to go to Wheaton College, where my mom actually had gone. At the time, it was still a women's college, which was an incredible experience, one that I recommend, even though there are not very many women's colleges left in the country. Then went to Columbia Business School when I was 22, having absolutely no quantitative ability that I was aware of, but was encouraged to apply and attend by a wonderful friend of our family's. And so, I would just stop right there and say, the real champions for women in particular are men and women who encourage women, even very young women, to dream the dream and to go for it. And I had never in a million years thought that I would go to business school. I was a government major at Wheaton College, had no aspirations to go into business, didn't have any family members who had worked on Wall Street, so I was a stranger in a strange land. But it turned out to be one of the greatest experiences of my life. I believe I did graduate last in my class at Columbia Business School, so distinguished myself in that way. But it didn't really matter because I had a really stupendous career at Goldman, and the reason that I did was that I found the right place, and that was in sales and trading. I loved the client contact that I had. I was only one of two women in the division when I joined, and so was really just incredibly passionate about women succeeding. And this to this day actually really blows my mind. I requested and was given permission to have the first all-day women's conference for women in the fixed income division on November 1st, 1985. And that was considered to be a really, really big deal because at the time Goldman was privately held. They had never had anything like that, and it was a spectacular success. So I think that was really the moment for me in my career and in my life where I said I am going to make, my life's mission around and about investing in women.
That's wonderful. So that was your inspiration for 85 Broads?
Yes. And it was really built on a very, very simple concept. So 85 Broads, just for the record, is a humorous riff on Goldman's former headquarter address, which was 85 Broad Street in New York City. And when I left the firm, I noticed, along with myself, that there seemed to be a very significant female brain drain. And it's a very grueling career path. And so, the average tenure is probably about, I would guess, 5 to 7 years. And by that time, I had been in fixed income for 11 and then 3 in asset management. And so when I left, I said, well, I care so much about the women in the firm. These gals are amazing. And they were starting to hire a lot of young women, and a lot of the more senior women were starting to exit the stage. And so I approached management and I said, I would love to figure out a way to keep the women, the wonderful women who had great careers at Goldman, connected to the women, particularly the younger women who are there now. And the management team at Goldman couldn't really get their head around that, and they couldn't because I was in so many ways way ahead of my time. That was in the mid-1990s. It was before the Internet existed. This is hard to believe, really before cell phones existed, or any of the things that we now so totally take for granted. And they just sort of thought of people who had left the firm as people who had left the firm, not as how I described them, as alumni. And they couldn't really think about people who had left the firm, male or female, as alumni. So I was, I think, really a little ahead of my time from that standpoint.
So what is 85 Broads today? What kind of programs does 85 Broads offer?
Well, I think the cool thing is, and just to take a tiny, tiny step back, which was I was undeterred. So if Goldman said, no, we don't want to formally or officially, create this community, it didn't stop me from doing it. And that's what I'm so incredibly proud of, because in 1997, 85 Broads was officially founded. And that was really a little before the Internet really was thriving. So it would have been, would not have even have been on my radar screen to make the mental leap from 85 Broads to 85broads.com. But within 2 years we did that. We built our first website, which again, back then was, this is just astounding, but that was 5 or 6 years before Facebook existed. And we just thought that it was the coolest thing, that we were going to connect women who had been at the firm with women who had left. And within a year of when we became 85broads.com, which was in 1999, women were saying, well, I'm really cool. I've done really cool things. I think I'm a superstar, or I think I'm an aspiring superstar. I would really like to join your network. And so in February of 2000, we opened up the network to, as we say, all trailblazing women worldwide. And I think that that's something that I'm just extraordinarily proud of, because what defines 85 Broads is not just the events that we have or the jam sessions that we hold or our book or any of those things. It's a belief system. It's a belief that women are great and that you can choose, a variety of career or life paths. And I think it's just this bond that women have, which is so extraordinary, which is if you come to the table absolutely believing in each other and cheering for each other and encouraging each other, the likelihood that you're going to succeed rises, in my humble opinion, exponentially.
Great. And overall, you've mentioned some of this already, but what kind of value can women get from a women's organization that differs from a general membership organization?
Well, I think there are two types. I think about all the local community organizations that I've ever been involved with, where I was working with other women in my community, for sort of the greater good. And there are so many wonderful women's organizations, and they're numerous. 85 Broads, I think, is different in one very big respect. We're global. We have chapters all over the world. And as I like to say, the common denominator of the women in our network is intellect, which means they want to use their intellectual capital to make the world a better place, not only for themselves, their family, but other women worldwide. And I think that that's really the most unique attribute of 85 Broads. So I am in contact with women in Pakistan, in Chile, in London, in Buenos Aires, all literally from Dubai, all over the world, and that's very exciting to me. It's a way to unite women around, sort of one common mission, which is to affect positive change for each other, whether it's locally, nationally, or internationally.
That's great. And Janet, how about on a personal level? What are some of the challenges that you faced in your career as you were striving to attain your goals?
I think I am I could raise my hand and say, I made every single mistake that you think that there's now a self-help book for. So when I was at Goldman, did I negotiate my compensation? Never. Should I have? Absolutely. Should I have, had a better understanding of, just really how to navigate and really, be a champion for me? I should have. But this is where women really lack role models. There really were no other women before me doing what I did at Goldman Sachs, with the exception of one other person, who was Ann Brown. So there were two of us. So I was sort of a pioneer in that regard. And I took that so seriously that is really why I founded 85 Broads, because I said, if you can't see the future, if you can't see yourself, being promoted or leading a team or managing people, because there are no other females who are doing that, who you could model your career after, then that's really a problem. I think the things that have challenged me is that I'm a big thinker, meaning that I think big. I think I am a visionary in that I like to think about what the world for women could look like, and then I try to make that a reality. I think the thing that probably was the biggest setback for me not from a career standpoint so much, but a personal life standpoint, was being diagnosed with breast cancer in 2002. And I had just turned 50, and I had told all of my friends and my family, I don't want to be 50. And I came perilously close to, be careful what you wish for. And so I really battled, and that was very, very hard. I had always been strong and brave and courageous, and suddenly I found myself being very afraid. And that's when the network really kicked in. My family obviously did, but, I was surrounded by all these spectacular women. And I think I'd like to think at the end of the day that's really why I founded 85 Broads, because I knew that there was going to come a point in my life where I was going to need, tremendous support from other women. And I think that's why I survived.
Wow. A very touching story. Thank you for sharing that. And what are some leadership strategies that have helped you get ahead?
I think it's a very, very interesting question, and I would change that question just a little. It's not so much about getting ahead, although it's probably because of how I sort of see the world that I've been successful, and my core belief is that ethics are everything. I feel so extraordinarily and profoundly lucky and grateful that I have a compass setting that really guides me. And I think it's so important for women, for everyone, to really have a strong, ethical core, which means it's nothing more, complicated than really knowing the difference between right and wrong. I always like to say, that I majored in common sense. And I think that that's always given me guidance throughout my life, throughout my career, throughout everything that I've done, is that I am always best of counsel to myself. And I think that that's just something that over the course of a person's life becomes more and more important. It's, could I have made better decisions, smarter decisions? Could I have achieved more fame or success or whatever? I'm totally comfortable with what I have achieved, because what I've achieved, I've done in an extraordinarily, ethical and fair way. And that's how I want to be remembered. I think it's always so important for people to say, as maybe as trite as it sounds, what do you want on your tombstone? And I would like to be remembered as somebody that was fair, but really who behaved in the highest ethical manner. And I can't stress that enough. I think that comes into play every moment of every day, whether it's on your job, in some aspect of your family, how you're dealing with your team, certainly how you're dealing with your children. And it's something, I think, if somebody said, what are you the most proud of, other than having two spectacular kids, I would say how I have chosen to conduct my life.
That's wonderful. That really is, and I think it's such a wonderful example for our listeners. Thank you for sharing that. And Janet, you're also an author. Can you tell us more about your book, More Than 85 Broads?
The book is exactly what the title says, which is there are 95 women who we interviewed and profiled. I think that I have been touched by this book in so many ways, because the subtitle was Women Defining Success on Their Own Terms. And I think if I had it to do all over again, I would say women defining success and happiness on their own terms. And it was through the process of interviewing the women for our book that I got to know some of the most extraordinary women on the planet. And One of the most extraordinary was a young gal by the name of Meg Bertay, and she had been diagnosed with cancer when she was in her 20s. I got to know her for the first time in 2003, was just blown away by how special this woman was and how courageous she was. And she said, okay, I want to know, how powerful 85 Broads really is. I want to ride with Lance Armstrong in the Tour of Hope. And I said, well, golly, I wish I could help you, but I don't know Lance. I don't know anybody in his organization. Well, it turns out that one of our members actually was on Lance's board, on the foundation board, and she made that dream come true for Meg. And so in 2005, Meg rode from Seattle, Washington, with Lance and 23 other cancer survivors to Washington, D.C. It was an incredibly grueling bike ride through pretty miserable weather conditions. And Meg said it was one of the happiest, most glorious moments of her life. She lost her battle in 2009 at the age of 37. So I think that book has touched me in so many different ways. I am so thankful and grateful that I have gotten to meet roughly 30,000 women that I wouldn't have met otherwise had it not been for 85 Broads. And I count you, certainly, Ellie, as one of them. And I'd like to think it's kind of the ultimate big tent for women. And I absolutely believe with all my heart that whenever women feel that they're not going to make it, they're not going to succeed, or life's handed them a lousy, card to play, that's where you have to say, I have this network of amazing women who are going to support me. They're going to back me. They're going to believe in me. And I think that this is, without doubt, the most magical aspect of my life. It's finding out, that women are really just incredibly extraordinary, strong, brave, courageous. They'll go to bat for each other. They'll watch each other's back. And I think that for me, I created, what I call my own version of utopia, which is always thinking about women in the strongest of terms, the best of terms, and just that's become my vision and my hope for the future.
And you're succeeding at that. So thank you so much for your efforts there. So Janet, how can our listeners get in touch with you and learn more about 85 Broads?
Well, the best way is to go to our website, which is www.85broads.com. And I think this always really shocks people or shocks them in a happy way. I actually am the person that approves people for membership. And I love having conversations with women. There's lots of stuff that you can find out on our website. We post blogs and, lots of information about our network. And so I can be reached through info@85broads.com. It feeds right into my inbox. And I would just encourage women, who are listening to this broadcast, just to salute each other and say, well done.
Well, Janet, thank you so much for taking the time today to share with us and for just being transparent and open and sharing a little piece of your life and your vision with us. It's been a real honor to have you on the show today.
Well, it's been an honor to be part of it. So, Ellie, thank you so much.
Thank you, Janet. And to all my listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Don't forget to visit the newly relaunched Leadership Strategies for Women webpage at leadershipstrategiesforwomen.com. Until next time, God bless.